Hello and welcome to Uncovered, the podcast with your host, Jason Irving. Join me in a journey to understand what's truly happening in your world and the world around you. This is not about how you're living life on the surface. It's about what's truly driving you from under the covers. I'm going to take you on a journey to deeply uncover the reason why you are here, the ultimate purpose in your problems and the way that they have shaped your life up until now. See, I believe you have a purpose and your problems are the highway towards ultimate realization of that journey towards freedom and the reconnection of your true self. I've been told I have a different spin on most things, and I'll be giving you my understanding of life, love, and what we're all here for, purpose. To get the best out of this podcast, drop what you already know so you can discover what's beyond you. So join me, let's play this game of life and bring on liberation, transformation, and change. Let's do this.
Hey guys, welcome to Uncovered. I'm really excited. I've got an amazing guy and he's got an amazing name. His name's Jason, and Jason's always, there's a good Jason and the bad Jason. So I'm not sure who's going to be the good Jason and the bad Jason today, but I'm just going to poke a little bit of a bad Jason here for you, Jason, because I think golf sucks. Right. Okay. And this is the only thing that I don't like about you, Jason, is the fact that you created a golf course in your backyard and you think it's great and I think it's stupid. What do you think?
Okay. Well, let me just put it this way. Is it about the golf course or is it about the clubhouse that we built as well, so that together men can actually spend a bit more time together, socialize, bond, have a few nice drinks together, talk about life and things like that?
Well, I think it's the fact that maybe you haven't invited me to the clubhouse. I think that might be the problem here. I have an envy issue. This is what I'm going. Now I've figured myself out. So thanks for not inviting me to you.
So it's jealous Jason, is that what you're saying?
It's jealous Jason and envy Jason talking to nice Jason, who likes to get people together and have a great time and enjoy socializing with a bit of golf on the back.
Well, mate, to be totally honest, I mean, if we talk about the golf side of things, I'm a sport tragic. I love all of those type of things, and I've got the space on our property to do it. So I said, why not go ahead and do it? And yeah, it's a big 290 square meter golf course with a golf green and multiple different holes, and we've got the small bunker at the front and the big 5-foot bunker at the back. And then we started to go, well, what else could we do? And how do we make this into 18 holes and 36 holes? And then we'll build a clubhouse and then we'll do it. And it's just been a bit of fun. But for me, it's not because I want to, I mean, I know that my golf skills will increase and improve because I've got it in my backyard to do, right?
Yeah.
But for me, it's about bringing people together, having that clubhouse and that type of stuff, at the top of the hill overlooking the golf course and being able to just have a bit more time as people and friends, and using that catalyst to step back from the busy lives that we have at times and actually just go, hey, you know what? Sometimes we just need to do a few things for ourselves and reconnect with people a little bit more as well. So that's been a big driver for me to do that, actually. So
it's awesome. And see, he is good, Jason. Well, that's good to know. So one of the things,
and you're very welcome whenever you're wanting to come along.
Okay.
So yes, it's don't stress about that. If you want me to, I mean, I'll happily send you a formal invite in writing if that's what you need. Okay?
Thank you very much. Now, the coolest thing that I got to hear about you were just talking about the golf course, right? And you were talking about, okay, I create this golf course, and then you went, okay, how can I make it this? How can I make it that? I'll put a few more things in. I'll do a few more of this, a few more of that. You're always looking at how you can improve something. So even when it's the golf course, I was so excited to talk to you because you have a really strong ethic and a strong want for humanity. And it even comes down to the little things that you do, right? So it's not just how can I create this golf course with one hole? How can I make it something really amazing and I can put more and more into it? And you're one of those people that I got to meet a long time ago. And I was a bit, I didn't really know what to do because I jumped into a group of business coaches, and I'm not a business coach, and I felt really intimidated. And I saw people like you. I didn't really want to come up to talk to you guys because I didn't really know. We were talking, Japanese and English. in lots of
Yeah.
ways. And I didn't feel like I had anything to contribute, because I came in and went, these are business coaches, and I have no idea about business, even though I've been in business for 21 years now. But thinking business and money has never been my bag. And then I wanted to know that, are there really good people? Are all these business coaches just wanting money? Because I had such a dirty lens way in which I was thinking about, the business coaching world. And I met some amazing people like yourself, and I was just like, okay, I've got the problem. And you have a really strong want and desire to change humanity, Jason. And, I'd love you to tell the listeners sort of what your background is, what you do, and, where you come from, and what really matters to you right now.
Yeah, awesome. Okay. Well, I guess it's kind of interesting. Well, first of all, when you talk there about business coaches and things like that, and obviously sort of lumping me into that type of group and those things, it sort of makes me stop and think about who I am.
Yeah.
In most respects, I don't see myself as a business coach. Yes, I am a business coach in one of those parts. But when you've got sort of 6 or 8 different companies in, and they've sort of been across lots of different industries, and there's been a lot of diversification for what we've done in the last sort of 4 to 6 years primarily, I don't see myself as a business coach. It's one of the hats that I wear. So yeah, look, I mean, my background is allied health. So that's how I'm formally trained in and around that, like the exercise physiology, the physiotherapy type allied health realm. So that's my formal qualifications. Started my first business, I don't know, 15, 16 years ago, something like that. I've only just turned 40. So, I've got to keep myself in check a little bit that way. But, and I just sort of fell in love with the business side of things. Got headhunted out of uni, working with a lot of different places. And I was working with the Institute of Sport with New South Wales and some of Australia's best athletes, and doing sports science testing there, and, working with Penrith Panthers on that side of things. And just, I don't know, just looking around, there's a lot of diversification there and a lot of different things. And I just always was the person that knew that if you want to get ahead, you got to get in and, cut your teeth and be prepared to be humbled in different avenues and that type of stuff as well. Because prior to sort of on the education side of things, I was in the swimming game for many years, and I came through and I was in the Australian swimming squad for a couple of years and did a lot of different touring around and went to Junior Olympics and all these type of things. And then I got out of that, and let's be honest about it, I was quite arrogant when you're at the top of a sport, and there's an air of arrogance that has to be there, right? And I took a few months off and got a little bit buoyed by, I want to do something else and something different. I jumped into triathlon, and the very first triathlon I did, I thought, well, it's not too hard. I mean, I'm going to be the best swimmer there by a mile. I used to ride a bike as a kid around the streets and that, so it can't be that hard. And, you go to zone cross country at high school. So how hard is it to run 5K at the end of a triathlon type of thing? So I went in it quite arrogant, and I absolutely got schooled massively, more than I ever had before. So you sort of get humbled and, start back again and work your way through things. So that's sort of a bit more about who I am in that avenue. But I think once I got into the business world, I really started to understand that for me as a person, I just felt that I could do more for people if I wasn't just nose to the grindstone, seeing more and more people. You could work 50, 60-hour work weeks, see, you could see 100 people a week if you wanted to. You could make some really good money and things like that, but ultimately, where's that getting you?
Yeah.
And, you get really tired, you get exhausted, you sort of lose some of your friends, and how do you get ahead in life, family, marriage, kids, those type of things. So I started to get, I guess, pulled into the business side of things, and actually going, how do we sort of build this, scale this, and have more impact? So I really feel 2015 was my, I guess, big coming of age of who I was and what I needed to do. And I had a time period where I just needed to sit down and go, who am I actually? What do I actually stand for? Where am I actually going? And you can actually see on my shoulder here, this 2025 situation. So one of my companies is a global Kaizen group, and That's the logo there, which I substitute as the 0. But ultimately, that 2025 stands for what I came up with who I was and what I believed in was I wanted to empower and inspire the lifestyle abundance of 20 million people by the year 25.
Now, Jason, what does that actually mean? Like, I'd love
to
break that down for us. What's that going to do? Let's say I joined you and I wanted to know, like, how would you empower and get my lifestyle and get me connected to abundance? Like,
I think for me, that's why I phrase it that way, because I believe that everyone's sort of lifestyle abundance is always going to be a little bit different. Some people are quite materialistic. Some people want to, go out and dress a certain way. They want to, like the rappers want to have all the bling and whatever. And other people want to have the cars. And the other people go, I don't care for the toys. I want to set up a lifestyle where I'm connected to my family, or I want to spend more time going on holidays. And other people are really wanting to dive into the property market. Other people go, oh, I love the whole crypto thing or whatever. So like everyone's a little bit different, right? And we have different drivers. And I sort of sat back and went, well, I don't want to box myself into, I do this for someone. What I wanted to do is going, well, I think I've got the skill set where I can empower people. I can inspire them to lead the life and get ahead to do what they want to do. And ultimately, abundance for people means something different to each of us. And I think there was an avenue to be able to go, you know what, whatever your abundance is, driving fast cars, having property, investing more time into, raising good moral kids and things like that, whatever it is to you, I don't want to sound arrogant by this, but I felt I had a bit of a skill set and a bit of a gift to be able to do that. So it really meant a lot to me to do that. And I think one of the biggest things in my life was the fact that when I realized that and I put it in writing, I got one of my graphics guys to put together that logo.
Yeah.
I mean, the word Kaizen itself in the Global Kaizen Group, Kaizen is a Japanese proverb for continuous improvement in your personal and professional life through the elimination of waste. And so I sort of went, well, that's sort of been a bit of my mantra over the years. Always be a better person every day. What can I say? What can I do to grow myself personally and professionally? So I went and got the number plate on my car, Kaizen. And the vast majority of people have no idea. They even go, Kaizen? What's that mean? And for me, that's awesome, because the moment someone goes, what's the number plate mean? That forces me to go, well, it's the Japanese proverb for this. It's part of my mantra. And now all of a sudden, by telling people and showing people, I now have to be accountable for delivering that. So it's a bit of an accountability measure on myself as well, to say, well, if you're going to say it, you got to do it. Otherwise you have no integrity. So it's sort of a good way for me to force myself to ante up all the time. And so there's sort of been that, I guess, catalyst for me to build and grow things around that 2015 onwards. So, and I got to admit, the next 2 or 3 years after that were quite scary, because people started to go, how are you measuring that? Where are you at? What about this? What about that? And they start to go, oh crap, now I've got to actually, wow. I'm now, yeah.
And so what's really interesting with you, Jay, is that you and I have the exact same ethic in the way that we look and see things, because a lot of people place their version of what abundance should be on other people. And you've actually,
absolutely,
you're helping people claim a version for themselves. And most people don't do this, Jay. Like, most people go, okay, I'm the leader. You will be cookie cutting behind me, and I will be showing you how abundance is meant to be performed because I know it. And when you actually are giving people permission to, I guess, find out what they want, because most people, would you agree, when you ask someone, hey, Jay, what do you really want? Most people are at home in symptom bubble. They actually don't know. And they have to actually question themselves and say, well, what do I want? And I've been in that position. I've never, like, my want is for humans to actually be aware, to liberate, and be the best person that they can be every single day. I tell that to the Academy members. If you can improve who you are every single day, you're going to be getting somewhere wherever that there is, and you'll end up feeling abundant, because there's a thing called, we talk about this a lot of the time with businesses KPIs, right?
Yeah.
But how do you measure happiness? Abundance is a connection to internal based happiness based on what things you like to do. And
absolutely. Yeah.
So how do we measure an intangible object?
It's a hard one, isn't it?
Yeah, really hard.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So,
and look, I see it as well. I mean, many years ago, when I started, if we dive into the business coaching side of things, when I was working with the health industry, and that's where I spend a lot of my time now, because I know that I can have a huge amount of influence and a huge amount of benefit to, hundreds of business owners every year in that health and medical space. That's my jam. That's my niche. That's who I am. Like, I get it. I still have my first ever health company. And I promised everyone a decade ago, I'm never going to sell it. I'm more than happy to bring more people on board and be a part of it and all those things, but I could never do that. Like, that's who I fundamentally am, and everything else is an extension and an improved version of that. But I agree. Like, there's probably a couple of things here. One is I know that I originally started to talk about like $1 million health clinic. So when I started to look at, Venn diagrams and things like that as to what you needed to do, and the 3 things and the 4 this and the 6 pillars and all these different avenues that we hear all the time, in the center core was all about this $1 million health business. But that also then goes to the KPI comments you're talking about before, and then abundance that we're talking about before. Because for some people, who cares?
Yeah.
I've got people who've been with me that have got, 2 other team members, and they run a $500,000 or $600,000 business. They've got a really good sort of wealth profile for themselves and what they're wanting to do. They've got abundance. They've got a family. They've got this. They've got that. They're happy. $1 million line in the sand, stick the flag in a thing saying, this is what we're going for. There's a lot of people that go, nah, and it doesn't resonate.
Yeah.
So I started flipping that around and going, well, maybe it's not looking at that. And that's why we sort of reframe that whole thing of the profitable practice. And so it's about having a profitable practice, because the mentality is, we're working with people that do $34 million health medical businesses. It's about being more profitable, but it can be at different levels and different versions. We can also work with someone who's a sole trader doing $100,000 a year. It's about the profitability side. Because if you have a business that doesn't have to make a particular KPI measurement of revenue or type of thing, but it's more about the profitability side of things, we get to fundamentally change the discussion around what it means to them.
Yeah.
Which means we can get them resonating with how we can best do this for them to get the outcome that they want. And if it's more money, more toys, more family, more connection, more whatever, it doesn't matter, because that's the abundance that we can then create for them based on what they're wanting as well.
Yeah, I think this is so essential. Like, you put the onus, and a lot of people, like, we're looking businesses are very different psychologically to people in the workforce. Okay, so a business
very much so, yeah,
is going, they have a different mentality. They've taken a leap of faith on themselves. They have to make money. They don't just have money given to them via a paycheck. So they have a very different outlook, don't they?
Oh, massively so. Yeah, absolutely. And I think it also enables us to have the right conversation with people as well. And what I mean by that is, there's this avenue that business has to make money. It has to make more money. We've just had the election and that type of stuff. And there's all this discussion about small business and large business and who's paying more tax and who this and that. And it's all very tangible. It's very a transactional mindset. And for anyone who's not a business owner, they see it as just being transactional. It's all about dollars. It's all about a number. It's all about whatever. But as you rightly said before, good Jace, we're in a situation where business owner, it's a really personal thing.
Yeah, it is.
Some people fell into business because of a reason. Some people, like in the health industry, there's a whole lot of people that I work with that couldn't give a flying brass brazoo about money. They are actually a business owner because their grandmother had a massive influence in their life, died of breast cancer, and all they want to do is have a business that is focused around oncology, breast cancer awareness, prevention, cure, and all that. Like, everything to their whole life and business is not financially driven.
No. And it's really interesting, isn't it? And it's
really, massively.
And then when you get them and they go, and you go, like I've had this personally, someone's just gone, well, how much money do you want to make? And I'm just like, I'm just here to help people.
Yeah.
And I lose my ground. Like I lose my wheels around this money stuff, because I was earning really good money in the IT industry. I could have stayed and been anything there. And I left it and I remember this guy he walked up to me, his name's Dave, Bad Dave. He came up to me,
okay.
He came up to me and he said, hey, Jay, you're leaving a really good job. You're a high flyer. What the hell are you doing going to a position? I was a lowly healer. So one of those people that everyone goes, don't go and see that guy because it's something that nobody really knew about. And
bit of voodoo, it's woo-woo, it's all like
voodoo.
Yeah.
And so I was doing something that again could have made me no money at all. And I looked at the guy and I said, I just want to be happy. Are you happy? And he turned around like a robot, and I knew I checkmated him, because my whole process is personal. I just want to be happy, and I want to put smiles on the face of others. And then when I do that, I know I'm making the difference, and then money comes on the back, and it always has. And so I want to make more of an impact.
Absolutely.
And then
that's why I got into the industry, and that's why 99% of people got into the health and medical industry. You literally can sit down with someone at any time and say, why did you do this? Why have you spent this money? Why have you spent this time? Why have you done this? What? And ultimately, the one thing that always comes out is the word help.
Yeah.
And you go, huh? So, I mean, let's not kid ourselves. We have to tangibly take that as well and flip that into that avenue of, well, then how do you change someone's mindset to not just be working 50, 60, 70-hour weeks, spinning their wheels, making no money, don't even know family, friends, etc. We have to take that understanding and flip that understanding into people's mentality that if they build their business in the right way for the right reason, they will make more money, they will make more profit. And guess what? Businesses that make more profit can actually have a bigger impact than those that don't. Yeah. So we do have to balance that as well.
That's what we've got to flip, isn't it?
Yeah. And I go back 5, 6, 8, 10 years when I was doing, like 10 years ago when I started this in the health industry, and I fell into the business coaching side of things. Like I was having to present at one of our associations, the first time they'd done a conference on business and whatever. And they'd asked me to present. And so I got up and presented for an hour, and I came off stage and I literally had like 5 or 6 people from Melbourne that were my friends, my colleagues, going, hey, I want you to come down and do this in Melbourne. And I literally went, do what? And they're going, like, do like what you do for your business for us. And I was like, what do you mean? And they're like, we'll pay you to come down and we'll like spend a day and you help us like build our business so it's like successful like yours. And I'm like, oh, okay. Because Intermotion, my first company, it still is now, like 16 years later, it's still Australia's most awarded health team. Like we've won, I think locally we've won 11 out of the last 14 years of local business awards. We've won state titles, we've won national titles, having a bit of a beat my chest type moment, how good are we type thing. Like I've got 5 international business awards to my name, 3 of them are for that particular company. And so, and the very first one was for most community impact, because we built a model where the government wasn't putting an oncology center into place. So myself and 12 other people around the area put together and we built our own oncology and infusion center, and we put together a $2.65 million center over a 3 or 4 year period. Wow. So you start to go, like, you can have huge impact and you can do everything almost completely the complete opposite to what people feel business is about. But you can have huge impact, you can resonate with a lot of people, and you can make a good living out of it as well.
Yeah, and I think this is really important, isn't it? It's like a while ago.
If I can, I'm going to talk really openly, and I'm going to tell you something about the fundamental part of my day, the day of my life when things changed, okay?
Yeah, let me know.
I know you don't even know this story. So when I was my first year out of uni, I had been headhunted by 2 or 3 big companies. I started being a sole trader. I was doing things and stuff, and it was just crazy, right? I was working what I thought was 60, 70, 80 hours. I didn't really know. And what actually happened was I got myself fundamentally to a point where, fundamentally I got myself to a point where I had a bit of a situation one day when I was not where I am now, but 20 minutes or so down the road. And what actually happened was I had a medical incident. What that basically is me trying to politely say is within a couple of seconds, I'd lost all my vision. I was on a main road. I don't remember the next part about getting off the road into the car park area. There's a subway there. I was dragged out of the bathroom, throwing up against the wall, etc. Ridiculous head pain and a whole lot of stuff. And then I was back at the clinic, somehow got back to the clinic down the road and all this rubbish. What I actually had, and I didn't know this at the time, obviously, and then I got carted off down to Nepean Hospital and with our specialist down there, and I couldn't pee in a cup. They struggled to get blood out of me. They did scans. And when the specialist actually, and when Charles, it's like a Hollywood movie. I kid you not, Jace. Like I'm on my back on a bed in the emergency ward, and I'm seeing the lights go across my head as I'm going down the hallway. And I remember looking up for the first time and seeing Charles there, the neuro. And I'm like, what's going on? And I have no real recollection of the last hour or two of my life prior to that, apart from those little snippets I said before. And he turned to me and he said, oh, actually, Jace, we don't actually know. I remember thinking to myself, shit, that doesn't sound too good. Right? And he actually stopped. They stopped pushing me down that thing. And he said, Jace, and this is a guy that he will call a spade a spade. Even if it's a shovel, he will argue to the death, right? And so he goes, all right, Jace. He goes, I'm going to talk to you as a friend here just as much as a specialist. He said, we think you're having a brain hemorrhage.
Wow.
And if you are, you probably don't have the 20 minutes to live. Your wife's on the way, just picked up your mum and she's 20 minutes away. So I'm going to ask you once, is there anything you want me to pass on to your family and friends? That were the exact words. I still remember it clear as day. And even just saying that right now, like I don't talk about this much at all, but I just gave myself cold shivers on it because and I remember thinking again to myself, that doesn't sound good, right? Like I was so out to it.
Yeah.
And he said, I'm going to ask you again. If you've got a brain hemorrhage, you probably don't have 20 minutes. Is there anything you want me to pass on to your family and friends? Now, to cut a long story short, I survived. What actually happened was I've had a very rare situation. They call it a young person stroke. I'd been pushing so hard. My staff worked out in the days and weeks after that I was working about 88 to 92 hours a week.
Yeah, wow.
And yeah, first year out of uni, mate, I made nearly just a whisker under 150K. And you go, that's pretty good for a 23-year-old.
Massive.
Right? Right? 150K, first year out of uni as a 23-year-old. That's fantastic. But it also came at nearly the expense of my life.
Yeah, wow.
And I had plaque in my carotid artery in my neck. There's a little 90-degree bend, and it was there, and it was cutting off blood supply to my brain. And so I'm exceptionally grateful. Like I dodged the world's biggest bullet, mate, because I mean, we deal with a lot of stroke victims now in our business, right? And I don't have left side neglect. I don't have some type of palsy. I'm like completely normal with what I can do. I can brush my teeth and shave and all these type of things. And I don't have any long-term. How I got away with it, I don't know. But that was the day that my life changed. And that was the day that I realized, you know what? You can push really, really hard and make a lot of money. But what are you really doing it for?
Yeah, wow.
Like I wasn't even, I'd only just gotten married. In fact, I wasn't married. It was before in the 6 or 8 months before I got married. I didn't have kids. You know, you're sitting back now going, my life, 16, 18 years later is very, very different to what it was and could have been. But I look at what I've also done in that time period and gone, none of that it was so close to none of that ever being able to occur because I nearly wasn't here.
Yeah.
And so that was a big turning point for me, realizing, you know what, you can make good money and you can do that for people that don't even know you and those type of things as such. But you're potentially putting yourself into an early grave. And a good friend of mine, Brad Sugars, who now lives over in Vegas, and he always used to say to me, he goes, mate, you can be the richest man in the graveyard, but that's not very beneficial, is it? Right.
No, that's right. And I think this is
So,
an
yeah.
important thing, listeners, is that I used to work on a lot of people. There's a suburb in Canberra called Red Hill, and Red Hill was the area where all the rich people had the monstrous houses, and
Right.
they would the wife or the kids would come and see me, not the husband, and they were living in a hollow home. They'd made lots of money, but there was no happiness.
Yeah. It was a house, not a home, right?
Yeah, it was a house. And so I was dealing with this whole influx of kids that were psychologically disturbed. The wife was unhappy in the relationship. And the thing that can be consequential, and this is what I love about you, because I see posts of, you hugging your kids, and, there are things that this experience would have created for you as well, and really having perspective of what really matters when you have an experience that is life or death.
Yeah, absolutely.
Before, and you think, well, I don't want to burn myself to a crisp, and a lot of people do. They burn themselves. And
absolutely, yeah.
Well, what was all of that for?
Absolutely. I mean, and everyone's got their own story too, don't like everyone's fighting battles that, and this probably goes to the mental health side of things, of what's really starting to become more prevalent over the last few years. And, I mean, I've lost 2 friends in the last probably 4 years to suicide.
Yeah.
Just over two years ago, Gav was a good mate, and he was a property developer. He had millions in the bank. He had properties everywhere. He had a beautiful wife. He's got 2 beautiful kids. No problems, no nothing, and for whatever reason, he made that decision.
Yeah.
Amazing, charismatic sports person as well. He had and you just go, how and why? But I think it also goes to that fact that everyone's got their own demons. Everyone's fighting their own battles. I mean, my wife and I, we took 2.5 years to have it fall pregnant with our first child. We went through and did everything. We saw the specialists. We did all the tests, and originally, you go through everything, and the female does all the tests and all that. And then when the specialist turns to you and says, oh, Mr. Pilgrim, and you go, I've got no swimmers, or they got bent tails. It's my fault. Damn it. But, we went through that. And ultimately, at the end of the day, we were in a financial position to do an IVF situation, because we were one of 18% of people that have no scientific reason why they can't naturally fall pregnant. So we used the finances that we had to go and do that, fell straight away, no issue. Body now knows what to do. And the next 2 births have been simple, and, et cetera. But, you think about those things, the amount of people that have trouble with conceiving and those type of scenarios. Again, it's just everyone has their own different challenges. But I don't think it's spoken about enough.
It's not. And look, this is what I love about having this conversation with you, Jason, because my whole process with what I'm doing with creating leadership is actually getting the people to actually be more vulnerable and real. Because what I see on Facebook is smokes and mirrors. I see I'm so good at seeing behind. I can have a look in someone's eyes and just go, I know what's really going on for you.
Yeah.
And people get a little bit intimidated about me because I can actually see what's really happening.
Yeah.
And people don't like that, because they want to put the bravado and the truth on about what they're feeling. And then behind the covers, and this is where people would come and see me, and they'd be saying, hey, I'm suicidal. Hey, I'm this. Hey, I'm that. And all this concealment must create, and you've probably seen that from your experiences with people, that the concealment creates so much.
I can put my hand up here and tell you right now that if you went back, say, 5 years, the person that I guess showed people on a social media side of things, like you're saying a moment ago, is very different to who I am and who I guess probably show now. And I haven't deliberately done that, but if I think about it when we talk now, it's just something that I guess I do because I feel who I am and who I put out there right now is actually genuinely who I am. If you go back 5 years, I can tell you right now that there was a lot more beating of the chest, a lot more bravado. And I think it got to that point where, I don't know, 5, 6 years ago, whatever it is, I maybe it was a justification that you feel like you've made it. It's like, now I'm doing this, now I've got this. And, you want to show a bit more, whatever, like a bit more toys or cars, or, I got a bit of a thing for watches and that type of stuff, and I look back and I go, I've spent way too much money on cars and watches and toys and a few things like that. And I guess looking back for me, I know that I probably I don't know whether bragged or the bravado or how to best phrase it, but I know there was a lot more of that persona put forward, whether that's because I felt that I needed to validate that to myself.
100%. Look, there's two things happening. What I see is the validation to make sure that the small Jason that you used to be doesn't exist. So you have to show it to make sure you're reminding yourself that you've gotten somewhere. And then there's another part where you go, hey, I'm scared of losing it. So I've got to make sure I show it, be accountable to it, because there's a fear. When you have something, like I've had a lot of people say, well, you don't understand me, Jason, because I've had this thing, but you don't have it. So you'll never understand where I'm at. Right. And it's so interesting how this human psyche works. Right.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And then when we get to a point where, and I think kids do this for me anyway, like you look at them and you go, when you've broken through the red hill moment and you go, well, what really matters? You've had your death's door moment. So you sort of go, well, what really matters? Right. And then you take that in. And then what that does, in my opinion, for someone like you, Jason, is you make yourself more reachable to everybody, rather than an echelon that we're looking and praying to that we can't reach if we haven't gotten somewhere. And
absolutely. And I think social media, like you said before, is a big avenue for that. There's a lot of bravado in that avenue, and there are a lot of people, and that's why I said I'll put my hand up. I know I fell into that trap, but I haven't sort of consciously gone, oh, I can't be that, I shouldn't do that. I just look, it's just that, I don't know, and I don't even know the timing. I'm just saying 5 years for whatever it is, but I feel like over the last 2-3 years in particular, I've really sort of I'm not anywhere near that. Like, like if I want to say a little bit about who I am and that type of stuff, like, I've got a wife. I've got three beautiful daughters, 8, 10, and 12, that mean the absolute world to me. I've got 8 different businesses. I've got a pretty good wealth portfolio, and I've got properties, and I've got investments, and we got, without, I'm not bragging or anything, but I'm in a pretty good place. Like I know that I'm fairly affluent with, toys and cars and all these type of things. I have some nice cars. I have some nice watches. I probably have more in watches than I do in cars, but, and I've spent a lot of money on my golf course, right? Yeah. Like that's like, it's well over 6 figures, and there's another 60 to 70 that needs to be spent. Like, and you go, so I'm okay, like in that respect. But at the end of the day, why I don't need to brag about it. I don't need to go out there and do that bravado side of things, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Like, I think there's a level of congruency and authenticity that is missing in so many pieces of people's lives. I know that the way that you can really connect with people is through vulnerability as well.
Yeah. And that's
I have to do it with clients, and that at times where I have to get them as a business owner to walk into their team and start with, I'm sorry, I haven't been the leader that you guys have wanted and needed, or, you have to be able to show vulnerability at times. And I think that the more that you expose yourself to that, the more you realize that there is a huge amount of strength and power personally and professionally in being able to be vulnerable. Yeah. And it shows the authenticity, and people resonate with that authenticity a lot more than with the bravado.
Yeah. 100%.
So it's, like looking back on it that way, you go back, okay, like, and you're always going to, you think about the bell curve, no matter what you say and do, you're always going to have 10% of people that hate you, think you're arrogant, rude, whatever. There's the other 10% that are going to love you. You could say and do anything, and they're going to always love you. And there's that middle part. And that's going to obviously change over time as to what you say and do and who you put forward. But I think if I look back over the last 2, 3, 4, 5 years, I think that's probably where I've subconsciously made that change, going, you know what, regardless of what I put out there, I'm going to have 10% of people that think I'm a jerk, a dickhead, I'm arrogant, I'm rude, I'm whatever. Like however people want to see it, that's it, right? There's also the other 10% that are going to, same thing, love that side of me. So you might as well just be true. You might as well just be real to who you are in that type of avenue. And I think fundamentally I've changed massively in that sort of 2 to 5 year period.
Yeah, and people never do. And look, this is the concept of one of my favorite movies, The Greatest Showman, right? He ended up losing himself in his business. That was 5 years ago, that I have the bling and all of this sort of stuff, and I'm showing it and sharing it. And then he realized he almost lost his family as a result of chasing his chest beater. And I think probably, Jason, when I think about you doing allied health, when you have a why that you began with, right, which was to help, you were probably always going to go into the I'm here to help at the end of the day, and go back to that normal part of your conditioning that started in the very first place, because that's the role of the healthcare professional, which is to help and not worry about the money. And then we go, oh my God, look at all this stuff, I can do all of this stuff. And then we go, hang on, what did we start with in the first place? What was our major why? And then, so when we have that from a personal development perspective, because that's what you're doing in allied health, you're developing people.
Yeah. Well, I think over time you also start to understand that fundamentally, like, university can only teach you so much, right? The academic side of let's go and do this test, let's diagnose this, let's do this, let's use your hands to do this, manipulate, change, modify, whatever, right?
Yeah.
But I think in the last 5 to 8 years, we really start to understand the fact that if you're needing to fundamentally change someone or something significantly about someone, it has to come from them, not from you, right?
Yeah, it sure does.
So if you're dealing with someone who's a 60-year-old, who's an executive, they've got all this stuff and things and toys and all this, but they're overweight, they've got diabetes, they've got underlying health conditions and cardiac issues, etc. They might have even been diabetic for 15 years before they even actually knew. Like, you're in a situation where you've got a good 6, 8, 10 months ahead to be able to fundamentally change that person's life so they're not dead in 5 years' time.
That's right.
Now, there's only so much you can do with, the hands of God that some people think they have type of scenario, right? So much of it is you have to change people's behaviors. You have to change people's way of thinking. And to be able to change people's behaviors as well is you can't tell people what to do, right? You've got kids, I got kids. You say, go and clean your room, and they go in many respects, right?
Yeah, they do.
But no one likes being told what to do. But when you can sort of pre-frame that in a different light and make people understand that, what they're ideally wanting is going to mean that they're going to have to change themselves. They're going to have to change their behaviors to get what they want. There's a level of accountability there that, people all of a sudden uptake. And when they know why they're doing something and they understand their behaviors will facilitate the following responses, they're a lot more engaged and they're a lot more accountable. And as a net result, you get better results. So to be able to help people from a health and medical scenario and situation, we've really started to understand the last 5, 6, 8 years that so much of it is about changing that person's behavior. And you can't change behavior by telling them what to do. Yeah. You have to involve them in the journey. And that's how we talk with all of our clients. We talk about that journey and that pathway. We've got models that we've been teaching for 5 or 6 years that, a lot of other people now in the last probably 2 or 3 years start to, they've adapted to our language, which is a little bit, that's flattering to think about and know, but that's okay. Because ultimately at the end of the day, there's so much change we need to make. There is a huge amount of impact that we need to be able to have. And if we can change and help more people to get the right behavioral change in place for themselves, the flow-on effect then, and I circle all the way back to that lifestyle abundance. Sometimes, a lot of the time for me right now, it's not actually me helping a client to get rid of their neck pain or stop their headache. It's actually me being able to work with people at a higher level that can go forth and make that change with a lot more people. And that's why I love sort of that business development side of things. It's why I work internationally with some of my companies and things like that, because I start to see the spread of, that multiplication factor of if we can change more people for the right reasons in the right way, they can impart that. And it's that ripple effect that ultimately will go close to, if we had gone back 6 months, I would have said gone close to getting 25 million. But with what we're doing with one of my companies at the moment internationally, we're in a situation of working with some churches and things like that overseas, and their why is about, when you think globally about their congregation, they've got 8 billion people. And so that's all about change and improvement with 8 billion people. So we're now starting to flow forward with direct access to about 86 million people.
That's fantastic.
So that's really exciting to me, because I start to go, hang on. So I'm in a situation where I'm going to be able to start to be able to help and serve 86 million people.
I love this. Now
that's friggin' cool, right? Now I'm starting to go, like, this whole 20 million by 25, it's sort of a little bit redundant, right? Well, I'm going to put a 0 on the other end type of thing. So so it's kind of exciting, right? And that drives me. I go, well, hey, like, and then you start to filter that down from high level to eye level. What's that going to mean for, our country, our state, my community, how that's going to change with, like my team members, and then what can we do with those people's lives? And I think it completely pre-frames our direction. It completely changes our perspective of things. But so much of it comes down to that avenue of, you're working with human behavior, you're working with different mentalities. You can't just tell and, wave the naughty finger of a principal getting a young kid back in 1980 to do something at school. Like, it doesn't work like that. We've got to be able to better engage with people. We have to get people to understand how we can each lean in and resonate with each other. And as a net result, you get a better cognitive response from them. They understand it, they resonate with it, and they lean in. And when they lean in, we get them to be able to step forward. We've empowered them. We've been able to inspire them, and we get more of the abundance in their lifestyle that they're wanting. There's my whole mentality: empower and inspire lifestyle abundance. So yeah.
And look, this is the coolest part about you, Jason, because a while ago, I don't know how long ago it was, I sort of asked you, mind if I grab your astrology details? And you're like, yeah, all right.
Actually, that's a while. I do remember that. Yeah.
I had a little bit.
Hang on a sec. What's
this bullshit all
what's
about?
Jason want now?
Yeah, what
am I doing?
He's on some sort of heroin or something like that.
No.
And
why does he want to know my bank details? What's that got to do with astrology?
I did get some bank details too. I just figured that out through your astrology. No,
nice.
One of the things I saw in we do life missions. There's 8 major life missions in astrology when we get your map. And
right.
I was looking and I was like, okay, now I understand why you're such a big weapon, right? So your actual task here, like a lot of people, when we look at their astrology, they can't meet the requirement of what they would like to do. And so one of your life missions is to achieve big success in spirituality, which means to create a major impact of doing good in this world. That's actually what that means. So spirituality can mean all sorts of different things for different people. That's what it actually just truly means. In fundamental terms, in simplistic terms, spirituality means doing good for humans, right? And it's big success. And then I looked at all, where you sit, finance and all of that sort of stuff. And I was just like, oh my God. And I looked at the type of person, because you can see all of these things in the map. And I was just like, man, I'm so glad that you are doing what you're doing and why you're doing it, because there needs to be people who are, you've done your chest beater and you need some chest beating in some way to be able to create the big impact that you're here to do. You're doing it in a way that I believe is so based on how I can be a better person every day, and to be able to impact as many millions of people that you can. It's actually preordained. Like, I've seen this in your map. It's like you have like you look back, there's a cliff behind you, you can only go forward. And it's really inspiring. I was so grateful that I got the chance to even have a chat with you today, because I know you're a very busy human being. And when I looked at your astrology, I was like, hopefully I can have a chat with this guy, because
look, mate, I'm grateful for it. And it's kind of funny because when you talk like that, it's probably something that for me personally, I don't do enough of as well. Like I do work, I burn the candle at both ends and I push pretty hard and that type of stuff. And I know that there's times where, maybe my wife turns around and goes, "Oh, what you do? But tomorrow's Sunday. Why are you doing that tomorrow?" And you're left going, "Wow." And I don't know, you can't justify, like, why would I go and do something for that client for 2 hours on a Sunday morning type scenario? And it's not because, like I'm doing whatever it is, I'm not getting paid for it, or, I'm not doing it because, that's because an opportunity would then come for this, or I don't know, I just do it because it feels right.
Yeah.
And I know that the benefit of being able to do that now will be this to them and that, and it just sort of rolls forward. So, I mean, I know that I'm the person that's driven by that. Like I'm not driven by finances and that type of stuff. Like I was saying before, like I know that I've got some good avenues in place. I'm quite affluent with things and that. But I'm super grateful for that. One of the things I hold really true to my heart here, Jace, is it's 4 words, and it's and I tell people this, and it's a quick little story, but this probably came about 6 or 8 years ago. It would have been probably 8 years ago now. And one of my first ever mentors, we end up having a bit of a falling out and those type of things, but we get along well and those type of things, but he had a massive influence on my life, for obvious reasons, right? And I remember him telling me, because he was from Port Augusta, over just near Adelaide, right? And at the time, his grandmother was 82 or 84 or something. I think she was 84 at the time. So she'd be 92, 94. I mean, she might not be with us anymore. I don't even know, right? But Alice was her name. And she taught him these 4 words. And it was something that when he spoke to me about it and we discussed it, and that, it was something that really resonated. And it's something I've always carried with me. And I'm super grateful for that. And it's the simple 4 words of always grateful, never satisfied.
Oh.
And it's something that's really resonated with me all the time. And I talk to clients, I talk to colleagues. Gratitude is a big one. We always we like to start with gratitude and those things. And I'm really grateful for what I've been able to do, who I am, what I've got, all the, whatever, right? But I know I'm also not satisfied, because I know there's more. But it does become a scenario that, you can think back to all the stuff that we're talking about before. When's enough? Yeah. And if you aren't in tune with exactly where you're going and some of the catalysts for going too far, like if the pendulum goes to the other end too far, all of a sudden you're back doing 90-hour weeks, earning a shit ton of money, and then dying of a stroke or whatever, right? So you have to be in check with that type of scenario. And so for me, there's that whole thing of always grateful, never satisfied. How can we better help? How can we better serve? Like I'm a massive fan of growing the pie, not the slice. For our industry, I always talk to people. I'm like, the best way to increase the size of your slice is to actually grow the whole industry. You grow the whole industry and everyone's slice increases. We have more impact. We can change more lives. We can help more people. Everything about your lifestyle abundance that you want, you automatically get more because your slice has increased with the pie has increased. So there's a lot of that sort of rolls around in my head all the time as to why I do things, why I want to, achieve certain things. Because I don't really, I was talking to Jackson Milan. Jackson, and he's a good mate of mine, and I do a lot of wealth-based stuff with him, and he's just an absolutely phenomenal person. And when you sit down, you talk about actual numbers of, what do you need passively to, not have to ever do anything else again, or work or bill anything, or where are you at with these numbers, and what about this and that? When you start to think about a lot of that, it's hard because I'm not transactionally minded. Like my mindset isn't wired that way I have to earn $1 million. I have to do this. It's more about impact and help. So over time, I've sort of struggled a lot with that as well, because having impact doesn't actually pay the bills as such. I mean, it does absolutely, but just because you have more impact doesn't mean you financially get yourself ahead as well either. So you just have to make sure that we're, you're really in check with those things as well, I guess. So anyway, sorry, I just waffled there for a few minutes, but
you didn't waffle. Look, Jay,
yeah.
look, this is really important, listeners, to hear this, is that so many people that I know want to make an impact. And we're looking at a guy who is actually bending the rules, right? And pushing his limits, right? And this is what's really important, is that you meet people like Jason, you go, okay, well, why does he have this attitude? Because it's never enough. He wants more, because he wants more for humanity. And it's not necessarily about the numbers. And he knows it's about the numbers, right? Because he's being taught by a guy that I know, that I love, Jackson, that actually helps support people like us to think differently about the numbers and know that they're important to actually create a bigger frame-based impact. And this is so important, Jason, what you're sharing right now. So guys, if you've got a big thing that you want to do, you need to actually think finance, or you need to get some help to get your head around finance. So if you're a person who is built on help like Jason is, like I am, you have to actually get that right to make the biggest impact that you can possibly.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And that probably goes back to what we're talking about at the start of our conversation today, and the fact that, like a lot of the business owners that I work with to do that coaching, mentoring type space, are driven by wanting to help. They want to serve. They want to create a difference with, something to whatever it's cardiovascular disease or whatever it happens to be, right? Oncology or something. And we all have our own drivers, and we all have our own, reason why we're doing something. But we also have that underlying avenue of what abundance is and what our life needs to be. And they're very different, but they're also very much aligned. And all of those can find people in a place where they can be working really long hours, doing a lot of stuff, having huge impact, or maybe they're not having as much impact as what they could because the model of how they're working needs to change or be different. There's lots of different ways of, leverage and things like that we work with, so people don't spin their wheels and they can create that. But there is that avenue where what they're doing personally, what they're doing professionally, their why and driven, and what the business is able to achieve as well. Very different, but also in parallel. But that ultimately needs to come back to numbers. It needs to come back to an understanding of what that is, wealth wise. Maybe it's just business metrics and dashboards and that type of stuff. And we have to have that understanding in place. It's not about making the $1 million. That's fine. But it is about having the avenue and the vehicle, like your business vehicle, achieve certain parts, because as we said before, the more your business is able to do, revenues and profits and things like that, the more impact you can have. Like I've had so many people over the years go, a while ago, because when we talk about that $1 million health business, people would say to me, like, I don't care for having $1 million a year. And I sort of, at the time, I didn't really understand it, first of all, because you sort of go, but why not? But fundamentally, I knew why, because $1 million, who cares? Like, it doesn't matter. I don't care if I've got $1 million or not, but it's more about what you're able to then do with that makes the truth come to light, right? So that's why, I sort of had that time period where I just really changed my language, and as well, the fact that $1 million, $1 million, who cares? But it's more so, if they have $1 million, well, they can choose to do what they want. There's a lot more freedom there of choice. They can give. I've even said to people, I actually know the exact day where I was in Brisbane. I was standing on a stage in front of a whole lot of people, and I had one lady say to me, I don't care for that. I could never have $1 million there, because I just, whatever type of thing. And I, clear as day, remember going, okay, well, here's the challenge. Why don't you go and make the $1 million and give it to me? Not because I want $1 million in my bank or I want to spend it on toys, but you know what? I know what I can do and what impact I can have with $1 million.
Yeah. So maybe the answer is, what if you can make $1 million so you can create more care and create?
Absolutely.
It has to be a different attitude. Instead of who cares, let's make more care with $1 million, and do it with that reframing. So then
Correct,
it's
absolutely, yeah.
the dynamic of the human mind that's saying, I don't care about that, and saying, well, if you don't care about that, you don't care enough for the care that you can supply. So it's usually self-esteem issues that goes along with that. And I know.
Yeah, absolutely. But that can be quite confronting too, turning around and saying, oh, so you've got a why, you've got a vision of what you want, but you're actually not prepared to go and chase it, right?
Yeah.
It's a hard conversation because you're almost challenging their ethos as to, but you told me that was what you wanted.
Yeah.
But you're not prepared to actually go and have the financial metrics that has to be attached to being able to create that.
100%. And this is where, like, the mental underneath that people don't know is usually unworthiness. It usually comes down to
it can be, yeah.
So it comes down and says, oh, well, I don't think I'm worth the $1 million, so I'll just keep at the pace that I am, because I just don't know whether that impact is possible a lot of the time.
Yeah.
So Jason, I really want to thank you for jumping on.
Oh, mate, no, I'm super grateful for being asked. I'm it's been awesome, mate, to really dive deep. And
we'll get all the details, a mugshot, all the details about what you do, so people can get in touch with you and get a bit of an idea for all the business owners who are in allied health who would like some support from you, so they can find you.
Yeah, cool.
This has been an absolutely inspirational conversation. I'm really glad that I get to know that you are really good, Jason. You're not bad, Jason.
We're going to go. Yeah, nice. No, look, we have a bit of fun with that, don't we? With I think it was only probably a week or two ago, out of nowhere, I saw a post with you, and I think I just tagged #bad Jason for yourself with something or other. But we have a little bit of fun with it, mate. But I'm a big fan of having fun. Like, you've got to enjoy what you do. Otherwise, why do we want to get out of bed in the morning? So, mate, huge gratitude from me to you as well, mate, because yeah. There was no heads up of what we're doing, what we're talking about, or anything. And I sort of came into this when you're hitting record, going blah blah blah. I don't know where this was going, but I'm really glad we had the chat, mate. I think it's been really powerful and beneficial on many levels, mate. So thank you, really appreciate it, mate.
Yeah, absolute pleasure. And I hope the listeners can chase the dream, put the skin in the game. You have to put effort in. You have to put focus in. You have to create sacrifice, and you have to have drive if you ever want to get anywhere. And this man is inspiring, and make sure you follow him and take notice of what he does if you want to chase your dreams.
Thanks, man.
Thanks, guys.
Hey, thanks so much for listening to our podcast. We'd love it if you could like and share it with your friends. Our website address is www.wellnessbreakthroughacademy.com. We also have all of the videos on YouTube under Wellness Breakthrough Academy as well. We also do small courses, live events. I have an amazing book called From Broken to Breakthrough. We'd love the opportunity to give you a hand to help you live your purpose, to find out what you're here for, to give you the direction. Our courses are amazing, and we do everything really, really differently for what's happening in the world at the moment. So come and find out how we can help you break your limitations so you can live the life of your dreams. We'll chat soon.